Can everybody hear me okay? It's incredible when you think you have something that you want to read, and the night before it suddenly looks really shitty. So I'm not really sure what to call this. It would be flash something because it's under 1,000 words, but I also have footnotes, which I will signify by doing this. There's been a rash of break-ins lately in and around my neighborhood. B&Es, as those in the know are calling them these days. But moreover, these B&Es have been all over the news, and the word they used was rash, so that's the word I'm using too. I mean, who can you trust if you can't trust the news? So anyway, earlier today, I was doing something many average red-blooded Americans are apt to do, especially in light of alleged B&E rashes, surveilling my neighbor's backyard in hopes of espying some form of potentially objectionable shenanigans, while under the guise of pretending I was, say, just making absolutely certain that their dog, a mostly agreeable yet kind of rodent-like miniature pinscher, was indoors, like any responsible and respectful neighbor would. For some reason or another, that little min pin just sets my dog's hackles afire, if I may be permitted the metaphor, since I typically don't say things like hackles or afire. A fence separates our 2 yards, but the ultimate structural integrity is suspect at best. The same goes for my other neighbor and his house, fence, etc., who also happens to own a smallish yappy-type dog that weighs less than a MacBook, and whose dog also does nothing to endear itself to my pack of 5 whatsoever. And so, okay, as I'm wont to do far more frequently than I care to acknowledge, in just 224 words, I've already digressed from my anecdote's entire raison d'etre. Because that's what we really established here is the whole attention grabber of the story is a little case of friendly neighborhood voyeurism precipitated by a rash of B&Es. Now, I admit, I usually take very little interest in the vast majority of my neighbors' undertakings, mostly due to the fact that I can be somewhat self-absorbed and sometimes find the lives of the people on my block dim and uninteresting. However, with excitable newspersons telling me I should be concerned, I guess one should never be too disinterested. So then today, in the backyard, immediately adjacent to my own, I saw what I, upon first glance, assumed was the uncanny spectacle of an early 20-something male in shorts and sleeveless shirt, a shirt that at one time had sleeves, but of which, of course, had since been removed with scissors in the masculine aesthetic of calculated haphazardness, doing what I believe to be would best be described as vivaciously twirling a baton, a phenomenon which I would also like to point out, only piqued my curiosity above and beyond seeing just any early 20-something male in shorts and sleeveless shirts simply twirling a baton leisurely. By and large, because of the self-image I have known my neighbor to for the last 2 years so dedicatedly project to others, one of authoritative and unrelenting badassness, one that says to any lookers-on, woe is to he whom should cross my predetermined domestic threshold and thus unluckily find himself, and more specifically his face, knowing the 7 levels of utter fucked-upification, both he or she, my neighbor seems like an equal opportunity kicker of asses, and it will surely endure upon meeting my forged twin pistons of inescapable oblivion. Projected alpha male personas such as these do not typically lend themselves to the historically flamboyant nature of baton twirling, which of course prompted my taking a closer look and only then revealed that my neighbor was not in fact vivaciously twirling a baton, but instead he was actually wielding, yes wielding, for you would be deadly mistaken to think the objects I will soon name are ever under any circumstance twirled, my friend. Yes, he was wielding a pair of traditional but ever deadly Japanese pummeling weapons, nunchakus, and from what I can tell, he was doing so not at all incompetently. Sam, the sneakiest of my 3 greyhounds, managed to escape through the patio door between my legs into the backyard, while I could only stand there, mute, enthralled to see that a man I had previously mistaken for an oafish and bruising pummeler, who likely dealt with unlucky transgressors only through the brute Mephistophelian machinations of his meaty fist, turned out to be quite lithe, nimble even, with 2 weighty wooden sticks attached at their ends by a steel chain. Sam stood on my patio, like me, silently watching the neighbor with something like rapt attention, though I admit this could be somewhat misleading, since even the decelerating blades of a ceiling fan, their rotating, slowing down before at last coming to a stop, will produce a trance-like effect over him. But the dog and I are both now adrift in the same vessel of wonderment. I picture intruders stealthily attempting to enter my neighbor's yard, only to be unwittingly brought to the feet of their maker by the rapid, swirling devastation of my neighbor and his inimitable nunchucks. Mercy will only be shown to a select few in order to carry his message to other would-be trespassers, which is, it's your ass, buddy. Proceed unadvisedly at your own risk. And so he has his nunchucks and I have my pack of 5 dogs, which in my mind pretty much makes our 2 houses the least fuckwithable houses on the block. And if nothing else, this particular knowledge will undoubtedly help me sleep better tonight and every night from here on out. I mean, who needs 911 or brings home security when you've ostensibly got a half ninja living next door? Proceed at your own risk indeed. Next up, Chris Blocker.